Hi Fox, how are you doing? In the third round of the US Chess Championship, we saw Alexander Lenderman being involved in another very interesting and quite a crazy game. As yesterday, we're going to see very interesting attacking ideas in the middle game and quite an instructive end game in this game. Here he's playing with black pieces and he's playing against Alejandro Ramirez, who is white here. Ramirez, who a very strong and young GM, who, for instance, last year in the US Championship of last year, 2013, he was second just after Kamsky. So it was quite a promising game, and so it was quite an interesting game. Let's see what happened. Ramirez played e4, and Lenderman replied with the French defense. We saw the Tarrasch variation with the c5 move. White takes, and Lenderman chose to take with the queen. Also, it is very theoretical and very normal to take with the e-pawn, but it leads to a completely different style of game. Queen takes d5 is another interesting move, and this is leading to a very theoretical line, very long, very well-known ideas here. White develops with knight gf3. Black takes on on d4 with the c pawn, and well, white is going to recapture that pawn later, and right now he's focusing on just developing pieces. Bishop c4, the queen goes back to d6, white castles. Now with this knight d3 move, white is going to recapture the pawn on d4, knight c6, and the knight on b3 takes. After exchange of a couple of knights, black plays the a6 move to stop white from going with either the bishop or the knight to b5 and causing trouble. Rook e1, the queen goes back to c7, attacking the bishop, and here, well, the most popular move here, the most played, is the bishop b3 move, also leading to very well known between GMs, very well known ideas, and really some crazy variations could happen here. Just to illustrate, the main line of this defense goes on with bishop d6, and white takes advantage of black king, which is still in the center, and plays knight f5, taking advantage of this pawn which is pinned. Now he's attacking the bishop on d6, the pawn on g7. Now black can take on h2, king h1, and now black can castle. But certainly white has resources here. Now knight takes on g7 usually is a very nice sacrifice, and black just doesn't take it. Rook d8 attacks the queen. Queen f3, now he takes, and well, bishop h6 check. If black takes, the white would take on f6, and this may seem a very crazy variation, but really it has been played almost 100 times between GMs, so you can see lots of theory in this Tarrasch variation with c5. Well, instead, Ramirez, after queen c7, he played another move. He played queen e2, defending the bishop with his queen. Now bishop c5 was played. It's attacking the knight, obviously, and well, c3 was played here. Now Lenderman plays not a very common move here. So, for instance, very recently in the Gashimov Memorial, Karyakin and Radjabov played the game in this position, and well, Radjabov there played b5, a common move here. But Lenderman goes ahead to play this h6 move. Now, as Maurice Ashley was saying during the live streaming, is the kind of move you would not recommend your students to play, and there goes a strong GM and plays it. Well, it has a couple of subtle ideas. So far it's stopping bishop g5, but as we will see later, it could be even an aggressive move. Now, few games, as I said, with this move in the database. The English GM John Spielman has played this move with black a couple of times, but nothing that much. And knight f5 is the move, taking advantage of the black king still in the center, attacking g7. In my database, Gawain Jones versus Pillman is the only game available in this position, in this line. Now, the point is that if black castles, it could be dangerous for him. The sacrifice on h6 with the knight, pawn takes, bishop takes on h6, and now, well, bishop is attacking the rook, it will have to move, and black king may feel a little vulnerable. The queen could go to f3 and try to sneak in the kingside position. The bishop could go back to d3 to control light squares, and this may be a little dangerous for black. So Lenderman plays king f8. Very usual move, by the way, in the French defense, to in these strange French lines, to defend the g7 pawn. Knight g3 was played by Alejandro. Now the knight was under attack, and as I said previously, the h6 move now turns out to be aggressive. It goes even further, h5, and well, black is intending to move it forward and try to open up this h file to have a quick attack against white king. And in fact, as we will see, black is going to achieve an excellent position, a really dreaming attacking position against the poor white king set. Knight d4 was the idea of Ramirez, to try to exchange this piece, attacking both the bishop and the knight. Of course, his knight takes on e4. Now this queen on the middle of the board is really powerful. For instance, pinning this pawn. Now b5, b6 is not possible, and well, white has some edge here. The bishop could go to f4. White has really some active pieces here in the middle of the board. Instead, the way to reply this move was a very beautiful intermediate knight g4, threatening checkmate on h2, and more or less forcing white to play g3. Now black has time to save his bishop, going back with a7. This is a very valuable and useful bishop for black, so he's not willing to exchange it. And now really we can see the nice position that black is achieving. He's having very active pieces playing all against the white king side. We have this bishop here. The knight is very nicely attacking both f2 and h2 pawns. The rook even could be, well, if the file is open, the h file could be an attacking piece. The queen is also here, targeting white king, and even the light square bishop of black will join the party soon. So at this point, it was clear that, well, at least people thought that this was clearly Lenderman's preparation, and Alejandro Ramirez was spending a bunch of time trying to work out this on the board. Later, Lenderman saw that, well, he had looked at this, of course, but he wasn't sure about the move order, etc. So he wasn't playing by heart. But still, this is a very beautiful position for black, and well, black absolutely has the initiative here. It's not easy to play with white. Now, bishop f4 was played at this point, attacking the queen, and it seems it was very important for white to find this difficult move king g2 in here to have really some defensive resources. Seems a really strange move, but the point is that it's getting out of the pin on this f2 pawn, the attack of the dark squared bishop of black. And the point is that if, for instance, black tries to play logically, I mean b5, and tries to put the bishop on b7 after bishop d3, white would have this interesting f3 move, chasing the knight away, closing this diagonal for the bishop, and also, as we can see now, he's free to move the f pawn because the king is not on g1 under the attack of this a7 bishop. So, well, wasn't easy to find out really how to play here for white. This king g2 move, of course, is not very human at all. And well, Alejandro played what seems more logical, bishop f4, attacks the queen. Now he's forcing black into playing e5, and he goes to g5. Now, there was the possibility of playing f6 here, but as Lenderman himself explained later in the press conference, this was giving white some initiative, even giving him some initiative activity, and wasn't clear at all. After h3, f takes, white has this interesting queen f3 check. The bishop is guarding lots of squares here. Even the knight could be interesting move here, piece here. White is going to take on g4 the piece back, and well, black's king is the one who could feel really the danger here, so it wasn't that clear. That's why Lenderman, after bishop g5, played the very cool bishop f5 move. And now white queen is really overloaded. The very simple threat is to take on e4 and distract the e2, the queen from e2, which is defending f2. Of course, the knight is also the main defender of the f2 pawn. So there are lots of attacks here on f2. The e4 knight is not well placed, so rook f1 must be played to defend the vulnerable f2 square. And now is when Lenderman plays f6. The bishop goes to d2. Well, I mean, going to h4 doesn't look pretty at all. The bishop on the rim doesn't look really useful, and g5 could be an idea someday. So this doesn't seem a very intuitive move to do. Instead, just bishop d2. Lenderman keeps developing pieces. Rook d8. Once again, the queen is more or less overloaded, having to defend both the bishop and the knight. Well, certainly very interesting position. There were some other ideas which could be played. For instance, I just thought about h4, trying to open up once again the h file. Really, black has such an beautiful and position, so rich in ideas and possibilities to attack, that it's really difficult to take only one and decide which option you want to play. Lenderman chose a very intuitive and logical move. Rook d8, developing the rook. Now rook a d1 defends the bishop, and queen c6. Black is really having an amazing party here. The queen just joins the attack, and apart from attacking obviously the knight on e4, it's pointing out that white's light squares around his king are really weak, feeling really unsafe, and this king is could be really in big danger. White decides to trade a couple of pieces here. Now the rook is under attack on d8, so it must be traded. Alejandro took with the queen, and after knight takes e3, he forces white forces an endgame. Not a good one for him, but at least he's getting out of this very complicated position for his king, and just to release the pressure for the time being in the middle game against his king. He's checking on d8 with the queen. Of course, the king just doesn't have any alternative to move. All the squares are guarded by white, so queen e8 is forced, so the queens are exchanged. Now white checks on d6. He doesn't take on e3 yet. And after king d7, he takes on e3 with the pawn unloading an attack on the f5 bishop. Here, well, the best black had was to play the bishop h3 move. I mean, you're getting away with the bishop who's under attack with the knight and the rook, and you're attacking rook. The other possibilities weren't very great for black. If he takes on d6, white just takes on f5. The material is suddenly equal, and well, black could take on e3, but this doesn't seem that great than it looked. The other possibility was to take on e3 with a check, but after king g2, once again the f5 bishop is under attack, so if black chooses to take on d6, white will just takes on f5 with the rook, and very similar position to the previous line. Black is up only a pawn, and it's not clear how he's going to seriously attempt to win this game. So bishop h3 was a precise move, and now knight f5, getting away with the knight. Alejandro Ramirez gives up the exchange to try to reach a rook's and opposite color bishop here endgame, trying to create defensive resources. He's defending with the knight the vulnerable e3 pawn, and well, he's maybe has gone through the worst in the middle game, surviving very dangerous attacks against his king, but now this endgame is very uncomfortable for him. He will just have to try to create a fortress and stop black from getting in. h4 is played here. Obviously, black needs to activate his rook, and if he can do it on the h file, well, that's better. To king g2, the pawns were exchanged on g3, and g6 was played. Now knight h4 attacks the pawn, and rook h6 to defend it. Ramirez plays e4, trying to block black pawn's majority on the king side with the pawn, with the knight, and the king is going towards his kingside pawns to defend, to help them advance if possible. Now bishop d5 attacks the pawn on b7. b6 was played, and well, I would play it probably too, and it seems counterintuitive, but the Houdini engine is recommending to play b5. I mean, it seems counterintuitive, at least for me, because you're putting your in an opposite color bishop situation like this, you're putting your pawns on light squares where your bishop cannot defend it and enemy's bishop can attack them. And even more, you're advancing your pawns where white has the 3 against 2, the majority, when you're not supposed to move normally your pawns when you have not the advantage of number here, 3 against 2. So it could help even white to get an advanced pass pawn here. But anyway, I mean, b6 was played by Lenderman, which is actually making me happy because I'm not the only one that thought b6 was better than b5. Now bishop b7 and a5. White plays a4, blocking this position a little. Now black bishop must be reactivated. Absolutely, bishop b8 is the best move here. And white plays b4, trying to get a passed pawn at least if it's possible. Lenderman doesn't allow that easily. Bishop d6 is attacking the pawn on b4, forcing white either to advance or take on a5. That's what Ramirez takes. That's what he does, and goes back with the bishop. And he's more or less trying to create a fortress, not to have very weak pawns, and well, try to help, try to stop black from getting in with his rook. Bishop c5, king f3 is played, king f8. The king is going towards g7 to defend the g6 pawn, so that the rook can be relieved of this function of really passive function of defending the g6 pawn. Bishop c6, king f7, and after the check, Lenderman goes to g7. Now the pawn on g6 is defended, so the rook can be moved. And after king e2, it goes to h8. Bishop c6, bishop b6, just moving the bishops a little around. Rook c8. Now the rook desperately tries to get in. c4, defending everything. Rook d8. Now knight f3. The knight is not doing anything else on h4 now that g6 is solely protected by the king, so it goes back to the game with knight f3. Bishop c5, g4. Lenderman decides to block his pawn majority, and he will rely on his pieces to get in. He's not going to get a passed pawn here anymore, so his pieces will be the important part of this game right now. Bishop c6, rook h8. The rook is looking for an open file to get in, and after bishop d5 he gets to h3, and this is quite an achievement already for black, because now he's threatening to go to g3, attack the weak g4 pawn, and well, also have the possibility to give a check here on g2. The position is quite difficult already to hold for white. Ramirez keeps playing, but this is very difficult already. 91 was played, but this is allowing a check, and the king is forced to the back rank. Now that's another big achievement for black. King f8. The king is now doing nothing on g7. There's no pawn on g6 to be guarding, so the black king will use the dark squares to get in and help his pieces. Bishop knight d3, attacking the bishop, and the bishop goes to e3 with the little threat of checking on d2 and taking the knight for free. King e1, king e7. Very instructive, as I said, this endgame, because you see now first the rook went to h6 to defend the pawn, then the king went there to free the rook. Now there is nothing to defend there. The king goes back to help his pieces, etc. An interesting move. Ramirez tries to stop the Black King's journey. The Black King's turret is trying to control all these pieces, all these squares on the way of Black's King. But now Black has enough resources to take advantage of that. Rook d2 is attacking the knight, and after bishop c4, rook c2, bishop goes to a6, Black is winning the c5 pawn. King d1 was played, only move here, rook c3 to keep everything protected. Knight b2, now bishop b4, knight c4, now rook g3, Black is going after the weak white pawns. Bishop c8, but after rook d3 check, Ramirez just gave up and resigned the game because there is really no way he can stop after say king e2. He cannot really stop the move rook d4, attacking both the bishop and the pawn on e4, and the knight cannot go either to d2 or d6 to defend pawn. So position is really a desperate one for white, and this is there is really no much sense to keep playing this between GMs. So there it goes, Alexander Lenderman playing a wonderful tournament so far. He was quite lucky, as he himself recognized in the second round against Timur Gariev in that spectacular game, to have survived. And today he played a really interesting middle game out of the French defense, having a very great attacking chances, and he capitalized his advantage in the end game, getting the full point and being the leader of the US Chess Championship after 3 rounds. There it goes. Thanks for watching.